Hello, I am moving things around, but hello, and also hello. Welcome to another one line of code. Today is Friday, community day on this channel, so hopefully we get to have a lot of fun. And it looks kind of windy wherever we are. We are currently in Windows Swap Interact. Whoa, that is a long name. I need to make the window much bigger if I want to read that. Piedecuesta, Santander, Colombia. I don't know what Piedecuesta means. Something coast, probably rock coast. Anyway, so that's what we are looking at, and this was taken in July at around 1 p.m., whatever the day was, but this past July is where this video is from. I am using Windows Swap, if you didn't know. Nice. Napalm was talking about having 7 ads just show up because I use the 3-minute, you can see it in chat. I use the 3-minute cooldown, or 3-minute ads. And so Dukasoft is like, you know what? Have a sub. That is so kind of you, Dukasoft. You are amazing. You really don't have to, but oh my goodness, it is so cool when you do. So nice of you. I am still moving things around. I think I am. I did remember to check my audio settings to make sure that when we have any visitors in our voice channel, that their voice will output to the stream. And so I will not be talking to myself in the VOD. At least I hope. Checking one more time. Yes. Yes. No, my bot. Why? Why bot? I'll get my bot up and running. 12 seconds. Wait, what? So I didn't push the join button, and Peter's chat was picked up by my bot. Because it's community day, not community stream. Blah 42, blah 2. So my bot was up and running. Okay, that was scary. Yeah, so the thing is, my bot runs as a daemon service on my machine, and so when I navigate to the port that it's running on, it works just fine. Ooh, I see some people ready to get started, so let's hop on, or let me open this up. Let me start my virtual cam, turn on my camera, and Peter and Thindal, are you guys ready to be pulled into the stream room? Yes. All right. In you go. And hello. Mic check. Ooh, nice.
Hello, friends.
And nice. You're both checked.
Where am I? I'm here.
You're here. You're here.
We're all here.
We're all here. I have hair.
All right. I can hear all of you. And YouTube later. Maybe.
Perhaps.
And YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay, look, here's proof. Here is proof. I have the Discord coming through on desktop audio 2, and that is outputting to my VOD. Wait, I think 2 is VOD. My VOD and the stream.
Perfect.
Looks complicated.
So, how are you, everyone?
All
I
is
do
well.
need to turn. You don't need to turn yourself up, then I'll turn you up. But I do need to turn you up just a little bit.
All right.
Ooh.
All right.
Or
Cool.
I need to turn myself down.
No. I'm looking at the meter thingy too.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
making
I'm
sure that when
quiet.
everyone talks, the
That's a
meter
new
goes
one.
to the same level.
I don't know.
And me being quiet, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how is it going? How is Friday for you?
It's going well. I got a bug report, or rather, I got a bug report. I got asked about a bug report in the Deepgram SDK, so I'm currently trying to fix that. Because I'm a good open sourcer.
Which SDK?
The Deepgram. It's
no, I use it. We're two of the fewer users in the world. It was Bald Bearded Builder used to work for them.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Luke works for them right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's around in Copperbeardy's stream quite often.
Drop a name.
Yeah.
Can I drop a name?
Drop a name.
Sure. Name drop.
Nougat Peaks SWC Boat Blazor Web View. Okay. If you look at this amazing Nougat package made by my coworker, Bud Krybar.
Nice.
Bud. It's a really cool thing. We're really wanting to use it. We need to get cybersecurity to sign off on it, but it's a way for you to have any Blazor app, like a desktop app, for example, and you want to mirror what is currently being rendered to that specific thing. So you have a WPF, UWP, MAUI app, and it's displaying HTML as its markup. It's using this remote Blazor web view. And then you go to your browser from any other computer, type in the URL that's specific to that session, and then you can see that session rendering in your browser. You can interact with it, and it happens in both places.
Oh, cool. So it's
really
basically one application working in two different, in two different places
just like
at once, right?
Casting the UI. It's kind of like if you're doing a screencast.
Yeah, but still, it sounds really cool.
So
that's a Nougat package?
It is definitely a Nougat package. Here is the project repo. And if you look in issues, you will see that one person that has asked about it is none other than Ed Charbonneau.
Ed. Ooh. Ed's a nice person.
This is such a small world. I didn't know this until today, that Bud was in communication with Ed. I don't even think Bud even knows who Ed is.
Yeah, I've run into Ed a couple of times in real life. He's really nice. Yeah. Can definitely recommend if you come across him. I mean, he's a perfect,
I watch Code.
I'm not going to say teacher, but presenter. Is that a good word?
Yeah.
And introduces you to new concepts and new stuff, and then you take it from there and run with it.
Like remote desktop via browser for an app. Yeah, essentially. I would join, but not really feeling up to it. My pup isn't doing well again. No. And you guys are my distraction. Well, hopefully we get to distract you in a positive way. Jigsaw said it's been a week and I forgot the most important command. It's only been a week at that. It's been more than 15 minutes for me, and that's when I start forgetting. Mojo said, I was listening to a podcast and one of the hosts sounded like someone that hops on Discord community days, and I was like, anyone in particular? Like, is it one of these two that's currently talking? Either Peter or Thindal? Or DFlux is really the only other one I can think of that is regularly on here. Napalm
want to make
came
a
on once.
Statement of attestation. It was not me. I'm not on any podcast.
I don't do podcasts. This is a podcast.
Yeah, DFlux really wants to run a podcast as well.
Yeah.
But I think we, and I might be, jumping ahead of things here. We're probably going to try and record one over the weekend. Maybe not this weekend, but moving forward. And we're thinking about having the community night here, like a, not a dry run, but, to pick subjects and then go a bit deeper into them, a bit more planned.
Yeah. Anytime
that
you want to use this as a platform for that, please feel free.
Yeah, but it would be, the other way around. Like, we'd think about cool things to talk about here, and then we'd do a more, organized podcast afterwards.
as
That
a
is the
diving
current
book.
idea.
pick
Yeah,
pick some topics here, have some casual conversations about it, and then do the formal podcast based off of it.
Yeah, more or less. That's the current idea. No guarantees, no promises, no nothing.
We are happy to accommodate you.
Yeah.
I'm dry. I got no topics. Of course, data migrations, which, hey, anyway. But
that was a thing that did come up in Discord, and I was hoping that the asker would show up today. Who was it? We were talking about EF migration.
It's been more than 15 minutes, so both of us forgot.
Well, I'm gonna restart
never
my
knew.
headphones because I keep losing them. It gets chunky.
Oh.
You guys can talk though.
All right.
Yeah.
I will have to leave soonish, like more sooner than 2 hours from now. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, it's gonna happen. And Mojo did ask about books for learning data or SQL, and I don't really know what he's trying to learn or why.
Good SQL books.
I mean, even forgot the question he asked, but like, no.
Oh no.
No data
and
jokes.
Now I can't
Those
hear
are.
Discord because I did that.
Could you throw the question out again? I'm just.
He is typing.
Okay.
DB design and theory. Oh boy.
Oh, like normalization and stuff, or are we talking about SQL and document DB, or?
Yeah, are we talking normalizing is something I just assume people know. And so like how to store data, like it's just I'm so old, like I don't even know what to point you to. Right? Like
Yeah, I think that might be the problem, that it comes so second nature to us when we've been doing it for so long that we don't really explain it to people who don't already know it.
But also consider that there's a lot of people that don't need to normalize because they use document DBs.
Yeah, and then there's people like me who are currently, like, I'm not sure how to explain it. It feels so wrong because I'm denormalizing my main database at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean that's the topic though, isn't it? It's how much do you normalize? How much normalization is too much?
Yeah. Yeah, the issue I'm having right now is I need to be able to split the data sources. So I can have some data in a SQL server and some data in, I don't know, Cosmos or Mongo or whatever. And right now I have denormalized everything, but I'm starting to consider if that was the wrong approach and if I should add a column to everything that is a external pointer instead. Does that make sense?
I'd have to see it. I think I vaguely hear what you're saying, but yeah.
Yeah, but right now I'm changing all the IDs from integers, which they've been before, into strings. Mm-hmm. So I can just, okay, so this data isn't in the user table, that is in MongoDB under this key, for example.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm starting to consider if that is the wrong approach, if I should have like a local, to take the user example, I'll have a local user row that basically contains no info, but it has a remote pointer column that points to a remote ID somewhere. That way I can keep my data inside of the system normalized, and I can enjoy all of the well, actually the indexes will be slower when looking up stuff. I'm not sure. I haven't thought this through, apparently. I had a really good idea, but Dukat, you want a TLDR of normalization? The really quick
Mojo.
TLDR is... but Dukat said it as well.
Yeah.
Don't repeat yourself.
Don't store the data more than once.
But
everyone does, but like...
Yeah, but
to a level of third normal form, which we all know. Like roughly third normal form.
I use voice cod.
Oh goodness, I can't remember it. I don't.
It's
is that the one with composite?
With a little bit more, yeah.
Like don't use composite keys with ORMs. Right. There's your simplified. Do third normal form and don't.
Now you start talking about ORMs and
composite keys.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone's using an ORM, so you can't. And this, okay, I do have takes. So to
Yeah,
answer your
let's hear it.
question, or not even just talk through it, like I don't know how to answer your question, but I will just tell you, like everything
Wait,
I
which
think
question?
of. Well, Thindal's talking about like how to work with data in two different data stores.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
And
right.
somehow relate them to each
yeah,
other.
yeah, 100% that.
I mean, if you know all the use cases for these users, like, will you need to write SQL queries that grab the user's name? Like, maybe, but if you don't right
Me
now,
or in
yeah,
Mojo's case.
in your case, like, because this is the whole point. Let me just say the principle, and then we'll talk through it in your case. Because like the
Absolutely.
principle is, how is the data used right this moment? And because everyone plans ahead too much, you're not allowed to design the data for the future. But I will say, with a few exceptions, like just basically exactly what use cases do you have right now? If you have no SQL queries that require the user's name in SQL, then you definitely, I still don't know how you design your data, but it's not, you can do that row that links to MongoDB. But if you need to pull in a report one day that says I need the user's name and I need to write the whole thing in SQL, maybe you don't. Anyway, it's how the system's used. That's my whole principle. Yeah.
Right now, everything is in a pile. It's in a SQL pile. So everything is normalized. Everything is, I'm not going to say perfect, but it follows the main, best practices for setting up a SQL database with normalization and indexes and everything like that. The problem I'm having is that this is a platform. It's not just one system. So it needs to be able to have data stores in different places. I mean, I'm talking about MongoDB here, but that could also be a internal ERP system at some company. So they could be using their customer, what's it called, CRM, for example. But the issue,
so you're storing the
side,
data. Sorry, you're storing the user's data in, or you might need to retrieve the user data from a CRM.
Yeah, exactly. So right now everything is in the SQL server, but I need to uncouple that. But everything when I access it is always accessed through a repository. That was the first big point that I started rewriting. That okay, so we don't have queries that go multiple levels down. It's like okay, so here's a user ID. I'll open up a instance of the user repository and get it from there with that ID.
Okay. And
instead of doing the order.user, for example.
Yeah. So this is the perfect abstraction. This is when you actually need repositories, like for swapping out the data backend. So you're saying you will either have the data in SQL Server. I mean, in the future. Currently, or let's say last month, it was in SQL purely. And for next month, you need to program it such that it could be most of the data is in SQL, but maybe users or other things are stored in other locations. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Oh,
so right now I am denormalizing everything.
Woo.
And I'm changing the ID to a string. So that string could point to a different key in a different system. I mean, some places use GUIDs. Some things might use. I've seen an ERP system use timestamps. It is horrible. A timestamp as a P key.
Timestamps are really, really hard to work with.
But they can be stored as strings too.
Yeah.
So everything's a string now.
That was what I've been working on against so far. But I'm starting to consider if I should add a column to all of my SQL items or SQL types. That would be external key. So I'd still have, to talk about users, I'd still have a user row in my user table. Only it would be blank and there would be an external key value that would then point somewhere else.
Yeah. So
there is a name for this.
Are you familiar with the concept called MDM? Master
Data Management. When you said it, I started thinking about mobile device management.
Right,
that's something
entirely
different.
That's why I second thought myself. I'm like, isn't MDM the one where you tell a mobile device what it's allowed to install and all that stuff?
Yeah.
But yeah, MDM is also something used especially with disparate ERPs. So a whole bunch of people want to use your centralized software, and they want your costing model or your, what's the other one? Quote generator. And so essentially you have one definition for how all data should be stored. Also, this place stores all of the data, period. And then each system is designed however the user wants to design it. They want to put their stuff in Cosmos DB, or they want to use Mongo, or they want to do SQL. That, or not user, you know what I mean? The person implementing it. They create their database, they create their system, which follows the same pattern as the MDM, but maybe their data structure is slightly different, but they still go to the same source of truth for everything. But they have their own, this is what sales tax is in my country, this is how you handle shipping, this is how you do whatever else.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea with the repositories. From the repositories, I always send the object that represents my data structure. And then if I do, like for an ERP system, for example, I'll have to map that into the structure that I know about. Does that make sense?
No, but that's okay.
No.
Yeah. So,
I mean, my system knows what it needs to work with.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if it talks to an ERP system, needs to make multiple queries there, for example, in some way, it'll have to remap that down to my internal types, but that's fine. Writes might be difficult, but I mean, that's another problem. Usually when you have an external system, you want to read. But I will read up on this.
Maybe read all of the gotchas too, because
but I mean,
there are discussions about it.
I have a question on this actually.
Yeah.
Because this might be like my current problem. Because I was reading the link from the O-Word company. And they like I have previous experience in like setting up ERPs from the user perspective as like a manufacturer,
a consumer.
but like my current issue at work is we are getting to a point where our processes are becoming disconnected because like we're growing, and our CRM, like for instance, our salespeople don't know if their customers' products are being set up correctly as far as pricing, because like they're keeping everything in a spreadsheet, and like we have a CRM, and like the pricing's in the data in our like app, but they're not connected. And connecting them, like I sent somebody a spreadsheet that I pulled from a SQL query, and like none of the data was matching because
it doesn't match, it drifts.
Yeah, you know, somebody's name might be different, or somebody's product might be different, spelled differently, a space is messed up, it screws up their VLOOKUP. Like what is MDM my solution for this?
I just want to say this. Can I have a hater answer?
Go ahead, I'm cool.
As a former employee of a consulting company, they use MDM to sell product. I'm sorry.
Which
it's
one?
A product.
Which one?
I don't know. But MDM is it's fine. It provides value. I'm just saying it is a product and it does solve a problem, but you can anyway. Honestly, you might already have one. You look around in your big enterprise, you might already have an MDM solution that is not hooked up. You still have to do all the work. I'm a big hater for a lot of enterprise products, especially from the O company.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I agree. I am sorry I linked them.
Yeah,
no worries.
That is bannable. That's what we were.
Like whenever anybody mentions them, I'm like, why them? It's just all the other links from my Google search were not. There was the S company. I don't know if they're any better.
You're actually gonna have to say it and risk being banned.
Oh, SAP.
SAP. No. That's the original. That's the king of all ERPs.
Man, I really did like business objects though.
But
I'm not
gonna lie.
Honestly, SAP isn't bad per se. The problem is it is customized. Custom
is hard.
able.
working
You can
with it.
customize it. You can customize it to such a degree that it turns into a Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
And once you've done that, and then there's an update, you are royally screwed.
Excellent.
If you just take SAP and use it more or less out of the box, a great system. Same with Jeeves. Same with I'm not going to say Oracle because that's not an ERP, but yeah, you get the point. It's like if you don't modify things into something that it's not, it's kind of like WordPress installs, you know. WordPress is a blogging engine that people decided to use for everything.
Excellent.
So
I will.
But
Go
does
ahead.
anyone actually have an answer?
Real quick, Thindal, I just want to say the term you're thinking about is a primary key versus a surrogate key. And what's funny is I barely know these terms, but what you're talking about is like a key native to SQL Server, but then you need a surrogate key, a key that serves for everyone else. And maybe you're discussing like, do I have both? Do I just have one or the other? My whole point is I can't answer, but I can point you like, people have had smarter discussions about this as long as you know the terms, and I still can't answer.
That is great. That is great. I am writing these down.
Well, I linked Stack Overflow in the Twitch chat.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I don't know if like MDM is the solution or if it's just like, this is why I was asking about like books about, you know, just databases from the theory perspective. Like what, I don't know, like I know there's a problem as far as solving it. Like I'm looking for like best practices that are scalable. And I would rather not, well, I assume I don't need to look at Oracle or SAP, mostly because like they're way too much money for this like small, less than 10 people team. But like where do I go to figure out like how do we start, you know?
How to scale a SQL application, you mean? Or a SQL base?
Well, so like this is internal data management, I guess. Like the salespeople and we currently have an issue of I've tried pumping the brakes on it every now and then of developing solutions in our app for things that we could do in something like Power BI, and not have to, you know, spend developer hours integrating into the app, because the data exists and it could be extracted into other things. But I think our issue is, like, for instance, like all the stuff in our CRM, we developed a solution where like we can make it easier for salespeople to go look up each customer, and get the information they're missing from the CRM. But like my ideal solution is, no, like let's give them a place where both of them come together and it's centralized, but it requires some data cleanup, and it probably requires changing some things in our CRM. And it's just like, if we were to explore cleaning it up and setting it up properly, I don't like, I know where do I find best practices, and that's why I'm looking for like books on data and stuff like that.
I used to work a bit with a I'm gonna name drop here, but SSIS and SSAS, which is basically Power BI on steroids. So integration services, which is SSIS, and this is SQL Server's implementation of it, will pull data from different sources into local data, and you do that on a schedule. And then you use SSAS to pre-run all of the data. You do this generally overnight. So you pre-run all that data, pre-calculate all of your dimensions, different ways you can look at data, and then you push it to Power BI, or actually use Power BI to visualize that. If you don't have literally billions of rows, you can skip the SQL Server analysis services. But if you use the integration service, that has an ability to hook into pretty much anything. You can use that, pull the data in nightly, for example, and then just connect Power BI to that. You don't need to write an application for it.
So that's like connecting data that exists, but as far as like, let's take if you were setting something up from scratch, like with all of your experience, and you know, whether it's your startup or you join a startup and they're like, hey, like we need a CRM, how are you setting that up properly to make sure that like it's going to work, and it's going to connect easily in the future for when it grows, for when the startup grows, you know?
Step one, if you need a CRM, is spend money and buy a CRM. Don't build your own.
Yes, which we did, thankfully. We are using one that it's okay. It does too much, so I don't think it does everything properly, but it's well, if anybody's familiar with HubSpot, like that's what we use.
Oh yeah. HubSpot has a great API. You can just hook into that. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. In my case, I could have a customer in a local SQL Server row, or I implement the customer repository as a HubSpot repository. So each time I request a customer, it does an API call out to HubSpot, and it gets the data it needs from there, transforms that into an internal object, and uses that. This might be slow in the long run, but you could set up that it does it nightly, for example. So you sync down the data to yourself. If you can live with the data being stale every day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean I work in ed tech, and we deal directly with universities. So I mean our sales cycle itself, anything requiring the CRM is slow. There's 2 sales cycles a year, and it's like right before the semester starts, and then it's just maintenance after that.
In that case,
after that.
In that case, I'd either write a data pump, which integrates with the API and your own backend, so you can run reports against the backend, or just use the API right away. Power BI supports having API calls as a backend, backend data. The problem is how many calls will you have to make to build that data?
Yeah. I've started using the API. We have like our support tickets were like they used to go to an email. So like if you hit contact us and filled out your problem, it would just email us. And now like we set up HubSpot support tickets. So for a while we were like manually just like forwarding them to support, and now today I'm pushing a feature where like all of the customers' data goes straight to HubSpot through the API. Now with so I'm
I was like, you cut out for a second.
Oh yeah, no. I'm looking up some of these terms, like you said, data pump, and I'm like, all right, cool, what's that? And it's everything I'm looking up is the first few links. It's just the O company. So
yeah, but I mean a data pump, that's just a term for read somewhere, write somewhere else.
And
it reads from your local database and it pushes it up to HubSpot, or the other way around.
Okay, so because your experience, it's that easy for you. Back to the fundamental question is like, where is there a Bible for like general, for all the words you're saying that like I have to ask like, hey, like what's a data pump? Is there a book? Is there a resource where like all of that is in a place? Like not necessarily how to do it with a specific tool, but just like what to consider.
Martin Fowler books.
How many records are we talking about here? That I mean, are we talking again millions or thousands?
For this specific problem, we're talking thousands. I do have one. Like I have another issue that one of y'all might know. I think LiveCoding. I may ask you about it at some point in the future, just because you mentioned Azure the most and having to work with the sliders. So this specific problem is thousands, but I do have one that I have to start working with next week that when I tried importing the data into Power BI, all from one database, after it was at like 20 million rows, and it was just still going. It's like a 94 gig database, or it's a database with 94 gig in it, that we have to run for a data analytics project coming out, that I just have no...
That is a typical case for using cubed data, like setting up an analysis service that you have behind Power BI. A data cube is just a pre-calculated BI format, more or less. You set that up in a program. You select that. Okay, so they should be able to filter data based on these parameters, and they should be able to look up data on these parameters and display data on these parameters, and then you say build all combinations of this. And then once that's done, the Power BI lookups will be pretty much instant.
Okay.
To push that amount of data and to keep it somewhat fresh, I would either look at SSIS, which is integration services, which is if you have a SQL server backing your data, that is included. Or I would look at something like BizTalk, which is hella expensive but does the job very well. Or I would, write my own custom data pump, which is just, read from one place, write to another, and then you run the analysis services on that.
All right. I wanted to say two things. Number one, I badmouth MDM as a thing. It might be fine. It might be exactly what you need. Just you should have it already or not. Like that's
okay.
It's not. It's like a product that you install. And I will secondly say, as a dedicated Team RabbitMQ with tattoos and everything, like you can't use BizTalk. It's this was the whole anyway. I don't like it. I don't like BizTalk. You pay for it, and you have to do the orchestrations. And anyway,
I agree.
Huh?
BizTalk, is that? I thought that was something else.
No, that's still a thing.
Talk about that.
BizTalk is vaguely a message broker. Go ahead.
Yeah. BizTalk is still a thing, but I mean, we're talking about software where a license will cost you $8,000 or $9,000. And then you do the integration on that. But
honestly, the license
very well.
Yeah.
I think $8,000 is kind of bad, but then you need to configure it and set it up.
That's the problem.
Then you need to have it running on something. But once you have it up, it is very, very good at what it does.
Yep. Reluctant agreement.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. You could use an Azure service as well. I'm not sure which one.
Or whatever.
I'm going to say hello to everyone that just came in really quick.
Oh man, there's a raid.
Host.
We'll allow you to talk.
We had a raid from Chad Beaton Noob. So just wanted to say hello to everyone. You've come in on a community day, and today we have a whole bunch of people in our Discord having a really cool conversation. I'm kind of just letting it go, but normally we work on Blazor full stack cross-platform development stuff, this financial management calculator. If you're interested in it, feel free to check out the GitHub project, but today we're just going to keep doing this. So all right, that's my stuff. You guys can keep going.
Yeah. Two things. First of all, LiveCoding. I don't know RabbitMQ. I haven't used it. It might be the perfect fit for everything we're talking about, but I can't say anything about that.
I will say vaguely, it's a pub sub message queue. It has no logic on it, which is the important difference between BizTalk and most of the other message brokers. Like you don't write
no
orchestrations
or anything. It's just
correct. Like the consumer has to do all the work.
And it's
guaranteed
at least once.
Yeah. Number two, just to chat here, we're throwing around a lot of abbreviations or TLAs, like ERP systems and MDMs and whatever. If anyone isn't following along about what we're actually talking about, just holler and we'll try to
I had a couple resources on the screen.
Compress the. Yeah, but I mean, what's an ERP system?
Yeah,
does everyone know what an ERP system is? Okay.
We should have a banner that displays at the bottom. That's This
Oh,
is the
yeah.
acronym. This is what it means.
Yeah, ERPs, they mean concentrated suffering. That's what ERP
Acronyms are all part of the fun. You got to enjoy the acronyms. It's like inside jokes are available there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was interning at one of the big IT companies, they just kept throwing out around stuff. They're like, "Hey, can you give me a report on this?" And I was like,
Your
"Sure.
TPS report.
Let me go figure out what a CSP is real quick."
Extraterrestrial
Love it.
resource purchaser. Close enough. I mean, how do you
Close
figure
enough,
out
yep.
shipping cost on extraterrestrials?
Close
What's
enough, right?
on?
And is a sale going on currently?
Oh,
Trusted platform module, TPM.
TP.
Now, LiveCoding, with that book that you linked,
Right bucks.
I see that's a 2003 book. Is it still like a recent, a
Hey,
decent source?
I will just say, yeah, maybe don't bother with the book, because I have the book and it's in mint condition. I'm looking at it right now. But it was a Martin Fowler signature book, and back when people respected him greatly, like he actually really has a great eye for like. Anyway, he's a great. Yeah, I highly recommend. I don't know of a better place. And by the way, this book called Enterprise Integration Patterns. There's like chapter 2 where they go over like every type of integration, and then literally every chapter after number 2 is messaging. So,
Okay.
aka either BizTalk, RabbitMQ, Azure Service Bus, like, and it's all hypothetical. It's so dry. Like, but if you're living it, it might be just interesting enough because you're like, oh, that's what we're talking about at work.
Okay.
Otherwise, like, it's the
I was
most
gonna
boring
say-
thing.
When you said mint condition, does that mean you've not read it yet?
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't even read. Like, I had to look through the table
I
of
love it.
contents. But I have read his. He has like summaries of a lot of the topics on his Martin Fowler wiki, and I don't know where to look there. But like, I don't know, man. Their name. My whole point is when you're doing this kind of thing, you got to find the name for the thing you're doing, assuming it's normal, and then once you can find like a good Martin Fowler article, for example, then you'll say like, oh, here are the 5 options. I don't know what any of these words mean, and then you can go research and be like, oh, we were doing this, we were doing halfway to this, etc.
Okay.
yeah.
So I do not recommend buying the book. I mean, I can send you the book.
My
Yeah.
company that I work for, they pay for the LinkedIn Learning in courses, which include a bunch of like courses from Linda, or I don't know where they get them from. But it's just like a place a bunch of courses, and so you go there and actually track how many hours of things you watch, and there's like an award for if you like just stare at that screen for 10 hours. And invariably, I start there. I think, oh, this is a really interesting course. Let me review this thing. And invariably, I say, well, this is actually out of date. Let me go to YouTube and find the best tutorials there. And then I end up on YouTube, and just watching that is more effective than the LinkedIn paid stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. Or you find someone who really knows what they're talking about on Twitch, and you can actually ask them stuff, and they will answer,
It's
even
true.
though they usually answer it in a paid setting.
Yeah, Lion, you should be filing yourself. You should be billing how many hours to your charity work, and you should get a tax deduction for.
Oh yeah,
I'm good.
For that.
Yeah, it's like, this is my normal billable hour. This is the amount of time I've spent on Twitch talking about my billable hours. I'll consider that a donation and deduct it from my taxes. Smart.
I do that. I do that when I do DJ stuff and I do a charity work. Like, we have a couple people we do some charity work for. We do it as a tax deduction. That's why part of the reason why we can do it is because we get a tax deduction for it.
Nice. I think doing that on Twitch might be difficult, especially if you're getting paid to do it on Twitch.
It's really not.
Which country?
Oh.
This is like 3 different conversations. I'm just sitting there like,
well, let's not do taxes. Let's not do taxes. Let's keep it technology.
This usually does devolve into let's talk about different countries' way of handling money.
Yeah. I mean, then again, we mentioned Ed, for example, before, and he does Coded Live on work hours.
Right.
So does
I work for
Mark
a
at
company
CodeRush and
yeah, I work for a
but
company
you're a
that does
consultant.
not
You
really
don't
allow
count.
you to do external non-company paid work.
Yeah, you're a consultant. You don't count.
I was going to say charity work isn't paid, just to clarify. But no, I just want to mention I had a discussion with Thindal yesterday about a couple of things we could do. I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone about it, but I might be reaching out to everyone in this call about potentially doing something interesting. But
Yeah,
we'll
I
see how
mentioned
that
it
goes.
before. So
Okay.
it's no longer a secret, but I also said, no promises or anything.
Cool.
It's just we're throwing an idea around, and ways to implement it is where we are.
Oh yeah,
I say we should use RabbitMQ.
in the next coming months, I'll be on here asking questions about everything we're about to implement. I mean, we're going from monolith framework to microservices on core, and setting all of this up is we're a 2-person team really. So we don't know who to reach out to, what we don't know, what we need to know, what we need to outsource.
Going to be a 3-team people.
A
Do you
team
know
of
what
2
a
people.
modular monolith
Okay.
is?
Yeah,
Have you
you
heard
want a
that term?
monolith. 2 people monolith. Maybe
Monolith for sure.
two monoliths.
Well,
Build it as a modular monolith, then you can, unplug a piece and plug something else in. Exactly what I was talking about, for example. I mean, you have a monolith, it does the entire job. Oh, this needs to be a microservice. I can just replace the implementation I have here with a interface that calls out to a microservice. So you have 90% of your application be a monolith, and you have that little piece over there that
it's
runs
wild. It's
as a
like you
microservice.
actually work here. We have one instance of that happening right now. And okay.
Imagine
okay.
building your whole application that way and using dependency injection to make it possible.
Yeah, where's that image I shared months ago now of like the microservices? So they had like a container ship with the word monolith on it, and they had like little pirates with like huge container sized, or the containers you have on container ships sticking on like a little rowing boat and said microservices on the side of it. I gotta find that screenshot. It's hilarious.
All right.
I'm gonna see if I
I
can
have
find
the
an
hottest
image.
take, and I have to go. is dropping a bomb, and then I have to go. Are y'all ready?
Do it.
Yeah,
So first of
perfect.
all, I have lived through microservices. We started with the monolith, and we had like 40 people on the team, and we started building microservices up to 4. I think we grew up to 40, like 18 to 40, somewhere around there. Anyway, I was not the lead. So I was there like 3,000 years ago when we made the decision we're going to split up, and they said we can't afford to split up the database. And I will tell you, it is now 8 years later. They are paying for that decision. No one is willing to split the database. Now, here's why I keep saying this, and I'm adamant, and you'll say, but that makes it so much harder. If you don't split the database, your microservice is not independent. And if your microservice is not independent, you are not getting the benefits. And they have a word for that, and it is a distributed monolith.
Yeah. And I am denormalizing my data. Does it make sense all of a sudden?
I will also say, here's my second hot take. If you have a team of less than like 20 people working on a single code base, maybe there's reasons to split it, whatever. I'm just saying the reasons for microservices generally don't make sense. But if you think about, like, if you're like, well, we need 2 websites, that's not necessarily microservices if they're talking to the same database. And that's okay. You just mentally, everyone on the team has to agree everything talking to the same database or data stores are dependent on each other. They are not independent. And I'm linked to Clemens Vasters, a Microsoft guy who runs Azure Service Bus, incidentally.
Yeah, you got the Netflix one. That's the other one I was finding.
Oh, no. But,
sorry.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to look at the other one. Okay, well, look, their scale, that's the problem. Like, everyone says, oh, that's horrible. And then you're like, well, they have 100,000 developers or something really dumb. Like, their scale is not our scale.
Netflix one?
Yeah. Like it
Yeah.
looks dumb. You're like, this is crazy. That's too much.
Yeah, it is crazy. I'm gonna say that, but they have a reason for having it like that.
But yeah,
Is
it
that
is
Netflix?
crazy.
Yeah, the Netflix one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
like,
Clemens
ours-
Masters.
Is that Netflix?
Everyone
Our
needs to
application-
Like the
meditate.
extreme case.
Meditate on the Clemens Vasters video.
Yes.
Because I will appeal to authority, aka Clemens Vasters, and who says a microservice must be, or he actually doesn't say microservice, he defines it as service, which I also think is healthier, because then you stop talking about really small services and you start thinking about it as like these things that are independent. And some services are small, but they are not all micro. Anyway, monoliths for everyone. That was a hot take. I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Okay.
Just like
All
the
right.
radio.
Thank you so
That's
much
what
for
they
the
say on
hot
the
take.
radio. All right.
Take
It's,
care, man.
One real quick.
Alright.
Well, you can hang up LiveCoding. Absolutely. I don't want to hold you longer than you want. You can just listen. But one thing that we have in our app are a whole bunch of little diagnostics type things that can run independently, and any other application can invoke those diagnostics. So that's why for us, microservices make sense, where each individual diagnostics tool is its own service. I don't see a way that I would structure this in a way where like we have just one giant monolith app with all of these individual diagnostics tools that can be pulled in by any other application for them to use by themselves, or used within our app and called from from another app to our app. So that's it. That's my small bit. The end.
Yeah, but would that be entirely self-contained, what you just described?
No. So like all of those individual diagnostics tools are their own thing. If you are developing app B and you want to use this tool in it, you can either grab the package itself and ship it with your tool, or you can look for the app on the machine. If it's installed, then invoke our app to run that tool.
Okay, so you'd push data to that tool or let that tool into your data.
Yes.
Or you'd integrate the tool entirely into your own application. Yeah, gotcha.
Good question, Mojo. I don't know.
I
It does not.
was
says
thinking of
Peter.
something. I was thinking about something and then I lost my train of thought.
That's what happens when I talk. That's why I don't talk. So keep going.
No, don't think like that, man. Don't think like that.
Talk more. DFlux.
You are wonderful,
Talk
my
about your
friend.
stream last time. Tell us about these
Blah, blah,
Azure,
blah.
the Azure stuff
Yes.
that you set up.
So I'm a little bit stuck with it. I'm not really going to get technical about it, but I am still digging for solutions. Right now, I have my and sorry, I have someone talking to me at work that I have to reply to real quick. Hold on.
Okay, I will respond to Freedom DAO then. If they say microservices run away. I
Oh
agree.
yeah, I just remembered.
go ahead.
There's a saying. I'm almost certain I didn't mint it, but I can also not remember where I heard it first. But I've heard it since from people I know. And that is that if you think you need microservices or Kubernetes, you probably don't need them. If you know you need them, you might need them. It's like, oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
That was
I like
in
This might be a good fit for us. It's probably not a good idea or a good fit for you.
that was in the. Did you say that in the Discord like 2 months ago?
Uh,
I remember
may
reading
have.
that specifically in the Discord.
Yeah, I'm almost certain I did. And then Layla Porter was on, I think, .NET Rocks, and she kind of stole it. Or she didn't, and I heard it
Or
from the
she's
same
the one that
place
said it
she
first
heard
and
it.
you stole it from her.
So
One of those.
I'm kidding.
One of those.
so
That's why I'm
I
so uncertain all of a sudden, because I was almost certain that I said it first, and then I heard it from her, and was like, yeah, so was I first? Not that it matters, just, you start doubting yourself.
so I may
I'm
have
still thinking
misled
it's true.
our
keep talking.
conversation. Like I've always said containers, and then like my senior dev, like every time I'm talking about containers, he says microservices. So maybe there's just like a miscommunication on our part, but because I trust my senior developer, I just started saying microservices instead.
For everything.
And
Yeah.
Peter just corrected that they're not the same thing. So Peter's
Um,
hot take the same for moving this like
Containerization?
single MVC app into
So
containers?
yes, I think I can address what is actually happening, which is something that we all sort of done a little bit of, which is with the more modern frameworks, it seems like you can break things up and have better separation of concerns, which is moving monolith apps slightly closer towards a microservice understanding. But the actual subject matter of microservices is something slightly separate. So when you get like an older MVC application, you think we need to separate out these concerns, we need to make this easier to manage. And that basically means putting that more in the direction of a microservices understanding, but doing microservices as opposed to doing what we typically do with just monolith is something completely different. So that's sort of like the gap that people, whenever you have like a C# developer or .NET developer from MVC, someone says, "Oh, we should do microservices." What they're actually saying is, we should do a monolith with microservices inside it, essentially, or something, some conflation of the two.
No, I don't think that's our goal. Our goal is to be able to take some of the products out, some of the functionality out of our one product and utilize it into new products we're developing.
Yeah, I'd say a modular monolith for now. So you build a monolith, but you make sure that the pieces that do the work is pluggable. So you can tear them out, put those more or less in a separate microservice, and then change the plug inside of your main application to be a network call to that.
Okay.
I want to come back to a previous thing that you just asked about what a container is when it's not a microservice, and that is basically scaling. And that is the upside of having microservices in containers as well. If you have a Docker image, for example, that does something, if that application is well built and prepared to be run that way, then if you need more oomph behind it, more hardware or more performance, you should be able to take that Docker container, copy it, and you'll have another instance that you can load balance into, and you often have twice the power, twice the performance. And then you can do that multiple times. And that gives you the ability to both scale vertically, which is faster computers, faster hosts, and horizontally, which is more instances of the same host.
Vertically is more.
So vertically is bigger computer, horizontally is more computers, right? So if you have a Docker container or you have an application built to be contained inside of a Docker image, you can never remember which one is a container and which one is an image, whatever, you have a Docker application, they can spin up a new instance of it. And another one, and another one, and another one, and then you load balance.
I think the container uses the image.
Yeah.
Or multiple images.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want to put in the container. But okay.
But that is the main point of having everything in Docker, and that's actually, behind the scenes as well. If you have a microservice in a Docker image, that means that, we're hitting this specific service hard, we can scale that up. We don't have to scale the entire application up, so you can do more granular performance improvements, which will be cheaper if we're talking, massive scale. So you can have your front end can still be small, but you're hitting your user table 50 million times a minute. Then you can scale up just the user microservice instead of scaling everything up. Does this make any kind of sense?
Yes, I know theory of containers. I know like what I've used containers for on my home lab. And I see like the benefit of it. It's just when doing a conversion from MVC. Well, I mean, we're going from framework to core, and we're using this as an opportunity to maybe hop off MVC and use like a React type front end and stuff.
You should join my stream.
Yeah,
on Tuesdays.
Get off of this stream and join. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no,
He streams at a different time.
What time on Tuesdays? Because the beauty about
now
this
on Tuesdays.
Oh, I'm at work.
Wow,
I have to go in the
look at
office
this
Tuesday and
timing.
Thursdays.
Well, if you're on work or at work and this is something you can do for work, then it's still a perfect fit because I am doing this on stream, converting
Yeah.
Yeah,
from
this is
framework
work
to code.
stuff. Fortunately, for me, they've actually now Fridays is officially learning day, so we're like we're
it's
told not to do
still
sprint
discussion
stuff on
day. It
Friday.
just happens to be that we learn.
No, I mean at work. So like this
at
is
your work.
for me, this is
Ooh.
learning. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, so like you're
Yeah, it is.
using this as an opportunity to continue your understanding and knowledge.
Yeah, I count this as like
And-
learning education time. every week.
Calling it research and development.
Yes, that's what you got to do, Mojo, on Tuesdays. Set aside 2 hours of your workday to learn stuff.
Yeah,
See
and I
someone
count
else
this
run
as,
into all of the pitfalls and all the holes on the way there.
Call it
I
done.
count this as non-work time. This is my lunch.
Yeah, that's you, but you're a consultant.
But yeah, your billable hours. This is non-billable, non-payable, non-refundable time.
Not even ATO. Bleh.
I don't know what that is.
What's ATO?
Approved time off, which is or admin time. Admin time, I think, is what it stands for. So you are taking that time, not working for your client. You're getting paid by your company, and you are doing learning, skill up, kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're still getting paid hourly by your employer.
Yeah.
But in this case, you are not.
Correct.
Yep.
Got to do those diversity and inclusion courses.
STEAM and inclusion courses. Say that again.
You got to do that's what admin time. It's all the diversity and inclusion courses. I have like a long list of like they have the thing. They like assign you something every month.
Training does follow under that. Yeah.
Oh no, annual, no, monthly. We get monthly.
You guys get monthly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Apparently, we're not inclusive enough. I don't know. And so every month there's, and I have them queued up for months. I have like 6 months worth of stuff to catch up on that I'm probably never going to do. But they try.
I never have time for education at work and stuff. My boss is a real hard ass about that kind of things.
Didn't talk about yourself like that.
Hint, hint. I run my own company.
Funny.
I don't want to.
So I am the boss.
But
and I spend a lot of time.
People just assume, and this is actually a conversation I'm going to have on Monday with some folks in the company. This Monday, the Monday just gone, they completely yanked all of our permissions to all of our cloud resources and all our resource groups. So we can't like change any Azure settings. And like, that should be fine, right? That's good. That's good. You need to make a application setting change in the cloud. Too bad. So on Monday, the following Monday, I'm having a discussion about like people seem to forget that developers aren't just writing code and going to bed at night. They have to we're responsible for the application, and we're responsible for the security application. We're responsible for if the application crashes, or if there's a UI issue, or if there's an external security issue, right? There's a certificate error. We're responsible for like how do we get the passwords from the secure password store into the application on-prem. We're responsible for all of these things, not just the programming. So and so that's what we're talking about on Monday, which is like, well, it's great that like we can't change any settings and we have to like open a ticket and like wait a week to change a setting. That's great, but our people that we serve in the company, it's internal company applications we manage. They can't wait a week for us to open a ticket and convince someone from security to get on a call with us, not that they ever will, and change a setting. So hopefully on Monday we'll get that decision that's all made reversed.
There's a metric, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's basically that once you've reached a big application level, or a large application level, if a developer spends 1 hour a day writing actual code, that's considered efficient.
Yeah, 58.
Because you have so many things around it that needs to be done.
Right.
And that's why everything slows down once you reach that certain size, because you need to make sure things don't crash and things work together. And yeah, you're not actually writing code, you're still working, but
I've got to
not
do a little
actually
bit more
building the
work.
feature.
I know for me, or for my understanding, I've got to do a little bit more work with building out UI from scratch, as opposed to using like pre-made components. Because right now we have this conundrum, and I've sort of inherited this Angular site, and every single page on that, every single like was it .ts component or .html component, every single one has custom like styles on every single, not every single, but there's a ton of custom styles everywhere outside of the couple components they have. So I've got to go in there and sort of like remove all those custom styles and then put some. I'm gonna use like Flex and Grid and like just space things nice and evenly and easily. And so that's one of what's slowing us down right now is you change one thing on one TS page, then 20 other pages now break because they were stacked onto this thing, which was stacked onto that thing, which had a style which aligned out of this thing. And when you change one thing, it starts changing all those other things. So that's another part of the speed of development, which is making sure that like the stuff that you do isn't custom for every single thing that you do. It's like you're following some sort of rule set, especially for like stuff like CSS that can get needlessly complex.
Blazor and scoped CSS. It's nom.
Yeah. Well, but even in that case, like so, Angular has the same thing with its components. Right, it has scoped CSS stuff. But if you have like a menu item and then you have something that's aligned 30 pixels off that menu item, and then you change the way the menu item is like structured, well then that breaks that page too.
Yeah. I can see what you mean. It's when your components aren't really isolated, so they're depending on things in other components. Right.
So see, that's part of the. I've sort of inherited that problem that I've got to go and resolve once I've resolved the security issue.
Yeah. Security first.
There's a thing to say about making too many isolated CSS rules.
Well,
so like
what
isolated
I was talking
CSS really should be constrained to just overriding your global rules for this one element, or consider specific to only that.
Well, sort of, I was implicitly sort of talking about that. I was actually interested in your take, because I know you were doing this back when you were doing the I don't know, I forget all the names of the applications, when you were migrating those sort of JavaScript to WinForms to Blazor. A lot of those views had custom layout, custom view, like unique to one screen, right? Were you using at the time? I don't remember if I think you were using Bootstrap, but were you using anything like what do you go for, Grid, or do you go for like I lean towards Flex container, Flex blocks, like a general sort of like layout?
That really depends. Like, are you needing your things to be laid out both horizontally and vertically, or do you just need them to be laid out in one direction? If it's only one direction, use Flex. If it's more than one direction, use Grid.
Okay, interesting. So like, say for instance, like a menu item, right? Let's say you have a vertical menu going down your screen, and you have, say, you could have 4 items. But if you go to a certain other like route on the Angular page, you now have 8 items. And so my thing would be to have like just a Flex container that spaces everything evenly. Say, and then align it to the middle, and I'll give it like 50% height or something like this. And then it's just like evenly spaced. You put 8 things in there, it just scrunches them up a little bit. So that would be a flex box, or because that's just one direction, right, vertically. And so Grid is like,
for sure.
Okay. And so Grid is like more for like, I want this on the top right, that on the top left, and I want this in the middle, and this at the bottom. That you wouldn't do 5 flex columns or like 5 flex rows. You would use Grid to display those rows.
I guess the caveat to that is if I am trying to use stuff that is specific to Grid, like I want to be able to choose which element is getting placed in each section, aka a grid area, then I would definitely use Grid, even if it's only one direction. But for the most part, like if it's just to do with, I want this thing to be stuck at the top, this thing to take up the remaining space, this thing to be stuck at the bottom, then that would still be Flex for me, where I tell the Flex top and bottom not to grow or shrink, and then the middle is the only part that grows and shrinks.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. And so one thing that I bump into, and every single time I just sort of like CSS my way around it, but I'm assuming I'm not fully comprehending the full understanding of what I should be doing. And then I'm thinking of that menu item again that I just spoke about. Is I have a flex column in there because it's a column, and then I just tell the div, oh, you're a volume height of 90, because that's about the height of, minus the top bar along the top. It's about the height of the menu. How do you in a flex column express the height? Do you use the VH for viewport height, or do you use some sort of other mechanic to say, take the space of the screen?
Right. So typically, like my overall main layout will be the thing that I tell. Oh my gosh, where is this? Global styles will be the thing that I say fill up the entire screen with main. It's in main layout, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So fill up the entire screen with main, or with my layout. Sorry. So my entire application will only ever be essentially inset. So I could have done this as position absolute or fixed. That's what I mean to say. Fixed. And then inset 0. But typically I do use just height and width 100, VH 100, VW. And then for anything inside of it that needs to be positioned. So for example, my main page area, my pages are usually laid out where I have top bar, side nav, and then main page area. If there's anything in my main page area that needs to be sized, gosh, with the top bar in mind, then yes, I would do some kind of calc. I have a hard-coded value for the height of my top bar, and then I would do calc 100 VH minus top bar.
Well, no, I'm not necessarily worried about I guess I am, but I'm more talking about you can't use a flex container, my understanding, a flex column if you don't know the height that you're telling that column to go to, right? Because it just goes to infinitum. So then I'm misunderstanding how to use flex column. That's my problem.
Guys, I've got to run.
Okay. Thank you so much for hanging out. So tell us again when your next stream is.
It's hopefully on Tuesday. I had a pretty crap day last Tuesday, so I skipped it. But this Tuesday, it's gotta be done.
From 13 minutes ago?
Yes, exactly. 19:30 Central European time on Tuesday. And I will be fixing up the rest of the payment system. Hopefully getting that working with the debug providers, and possibly even starting work on the next one.
Oh, so very cool.
Nice. I will be there.
Yeah, please.
And thank you so much.
Take care, guys. Today. Yeah, thank you for having me. Have a wonderful one. Bye.
Later.
Div. Okay, so div ID is content. I don't know what to call this thing.
Oh, as a quick side note.
Yes.
For DFlux, for your questions, I feel like if we drew up a design and you were like, all right, what are we using? Then I think we could. I think I'd be able to help explain it a little bit, because this is one of the things I'm fixing at work. But I guess between grid and flexbox, I kind of just use them together. If that makes sense. I don't know how to.
Yeah. No, yeah. You're right. I understand. Yeah. No, I will probably be using them together. I was just trying to understand a little bit more about how some of those more intricate layouts came about. And I'm looking now. So I mean, and one of the things that I mentioned that earlier, it looks like when you were sharing that, is that you're actually manually writing out a lot of that CSS stuff, and so you're not using Bootstrap, I assume, or I'm attributing Bootstrap to more stuff than I should be. I think I did that last time, where it's no, actually, this Flexbox stuff has nothing to do with Bootstrap.
So at work, I'm on Bootstrap 3. So I'm very limited on some of the newer things, because I think Flexbox is Flexbox or Grid the newer one?
I mean, FlexBox has been
Flexbox
around
is-
for a long time. Grid has been around for a long time, but Grid came about after Flex. So yes.
Okay. I remember reading in like Bootstrap 5 that they changed.
I remember using Grid in
Oh yeah,
Microsoft Office front page in 2003. Well, it was probably only before then, but I remember learning about Grid way before I learned about Flexbox.
So I mean, to answer your question, like I use Bootstrap sparingly. I don't know if I prefer manual CSS, but like I'm comfortable enough with it. And I scope things at a very like fine level, so I don't have to worry about it breaking something else or something else breaking alongside of it. However, I'd probably use Bootstrap if like if what I was given wasn't a mess. I on personal projects, like I'm currently like trying to do this whole like Next.js.net API thing. I haven't decided yet. I just know I just knew I wasn't going with Tailwind because I don't think it's that accessibility friendly.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I had a little look at Tailwind, and I ended up just going Bootstrap just because it was more popular. But I did like what I saw with Tailwind.
That's fascinating because to me, like it makes the HTML look like a mess. And like that's my opinion. These are not.
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely know the arguments for using a CSS library in general, which are here are all of these standard approaches for doing these things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I love that. And then if you want a like here, I'm needing to specify a whole bunch of rules myself when really this could just be something like class equals content or a container or something. And then that applies all of the standard rules if we're using Bootstrap, for example. And then if I wanted to make the content inside of it flex, then I just add DFlux instead of needing to go into my CSS and know the rule display flex horizontal, whatever we're doing, or flex direction.
Right. So I think that what you're saying right there is exactly my problem. I'm trying to like use, and again, I appreciate you. I'm watching your screen now, and I appreciate you go through. I guess what I don't really understand fully the tool, and that's probably the problem, not necessarily. I don't think I'm gonna have the. I'm not as sharp to the stuff, so I don't think I'll be able to like pick up all the CSS stuff. I think I've got to still stick with those Bootstrap pre-made stuff, but then use it correctly is probably what I need to do to get that
that's a big thing. So like it's easy because they give you visual examples on the Bootstrap documentation. You can just go there. They give you the HTML markup for if you're doing something like a drop down button or a popover button, whatever it's called, or a dialogue. They give you the JavaScript that's needed to make a dialogue show up or not. And yeah, so it's easy to use a framework. It's sometimes difficult to fight with that framework to do your styles, but if you are going to use Bootstrap, that doesn't mean you can't override the styles. You can override CSS
that's
variables.
That's true. Right. Yeah, I'm not even using Bootstrap necessarily. I'm using I guess some sort of component library version that inherits Bootstrap. So I'm one removed as well from that.
And one thing for Mojo was starting to allude to how Bootstrap changed their column system, I think that, or their grid system. And when you're using something like call dash six dash
or dash MD dash
screen
6
size or your breakpoints, whatever it is, MD dash. Thank you for the follow, DFlux. Wait, what? No, that's a shout out for DFlux. Thanks.
Oh, shout out.
Anyway, but yeah, so they changed the approach for doing this, and I think it was to use display grid. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I think that's
I'm on 3. I remember upgrading to 5 and everything broke, so I was like, all right, we're not doing that.
There were quite a few changes. Okay, so back to you, DFlux.
And DFlux, are you using like what is the type of application you're implementing this into? Like
it's just an internal
MVC
business
or
Oh, you mean the
framework.
framework? What framework am I using? So I'm inheriting an Angular application. I actually linked in chat there. So Prime Flex is what I want to use because that at least like I read that and that kind of makes sense to me. It's just I can't get the column thing to go for me, and that's a big thing because there's a lot of columns in there, and I don't want to be like writing like every single column like, oh, you're 20 VH, you're 40 VH, you're 52 VH. Every time I want to just like have a div that says hit fill the div, and for it to work itself out. But that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Interesting.
Why isn't anything showing up?
So
you got an exclamation mark on your CSS there. It doesn't like some CSS. Oh,
I have an exclamation mark on my CSS. No, I don't.
No, it went away now. You fixed it. And this Twitch lag.
That's why I'm.
I believe you're.
Good.
Yeah, I guess like we would just need, or I would just want to see like what you're trying to put it into. I would say like where you can use grid to like set the size, and then use flex to do all your alignment within that grid piece. I don't know what they call it, or is that the within that little part of the grid. But what I guess with the columns, no, I think it'd be easier to see it like a small example or just like a drawing.
I'm using class selector. Okay. What did I do? I did a position fixed. I can spell. Okay, cool. TBTB and MC. You guys can keep talking. I didn't mean to interrupt your talk.
No, I'm watching you work here. But yeah. No, CSO. So yeah, you have your. Okay, interesting. I'm watching you play here. It's trying to see like how complex it actually is, just to because the more I've over the years, or I went from like only exclusively using components, right, to then start like doing like custom layouts, to now like sort of maybe I should be writing my own CSS. Maybe that's the next step that I should be progressing to. That's going to actually alleviate these sorts of issues rather than me trying to sort of work my way around it, I guess.
So where I was getting at with my question on what framework you're using, I don't know with I don't know any. I haven't looked at Angular. I assume just to be competitive, they do it somewhat similar.
I mean, that Prime Flex isn't specific to Angular. That's just a general NPM. Framework. Yeah, for like React, Angular. You can use
but well,
and things.
But with like Next.js, like iScope, I'm able to keep my CSS file within. I wish I knew terminology better. So like an MVC application, you have like your views folder, you have your views, or each index page like has its own folder. So in the views folder, you have many folders for all your different views. Next.js is doing the same thing, but within those is where I keep like my CSS for that view, depending on what it is. So like I keep a lot of the CSS for components, like stuck in that, and that way they're like only exist within that view, within that component. So in my Next.js application, like I have like a top bar and a sidebar and maybe a footer. And then the main, and then like those are all components, and those all have localized CSS. And then when I bring them in, like everything just is put into place perfectly. There's very little I have to do, like I guess on the main CSS. So what I was wondering is if you were using something that like could allow you to do that, but then again, like I don't know what best practices there. I just know that like in the Next.js documentation, they said you could do that.
Is Fluid? framework?
Huh?
Sorry, I was asking Sir Blacksoul.
Mm.
Any fluid users? I've never heard of fluid
Isn't it-
framework.
Oh,
I'm gonna
wait. I
Is
know
it just like
Fluent
container
UI.
fluid? Oh, it's an
Fluid.
actual framework.
This is part of the story. There's another one. The I wish Microsoft would fucking get the, oh, excuse my French. I wish they would get their damn heads together on this, because they have the UI stuff that they have. What is it? The adaptive cards are awesome. The what is it? The CSS they use in adaptive cards. I forget what they call it. It's like Fluent CSS or something. Is awesome. Right? Is it the Fluent UI? That's what it is. Is
I
awesome.
don't know.
And
I mean,
wish
that's
they
the
would-
only one that I know that sounds like.
Right. That's the one. Yeah, it's awesome. And they have a couple other things I forget now what they've done with, which is also awesome with CSS. If they just like get that together and then like make that into like a nugget package or something, or do something with it, and then tack that into to Blazor, that'll be amazing. Like if you walked out the gate and you have like all these tons of components, tons of things to use already made, but you know what I mean? It's just they just don't get these teams are so independent and they don't even think to look at what other teams are building to like make their stuff compatible with all these other things. But yeah, this looks like a cool little package. Black Soul, you brought it up there. What do you use that for? Is that just like a UI layout thing, or is that something that you use a lot, or just found out about? What did
I mean, it seems like it was old. Maybe. I don't know. He was making it seem like nobody should be using this anymore.
It was updated 17 to 39 minutes ago. It got updated.
What?
I will leave it at this because everybody, I'm sure I'm going to be known as a Microsoft hater. I do not like Microsoft's UI, and you could tell they use the same thing everywhere. And I didn't like it over here, and everything looks like a Microsoft product, which is great branding on their part. But then they run into, I don't know. Microsoft's not intuitive when they build things out, so
yeah, we were basically saying the same thing.
Yeah,
is that like it's like they're not intuitively like connecting the dots. It's like they came out with an amazing AR product, the HoloLens. I got that. And then they came out with a phone, and you think like the HoloLens people would talk to the phone people and be like, "Hey, you know, what'd be awesome is if your phone had also the AR stuff in it, so then those two products can be used together." It's like no, they didn't communicate that, and so one of the features their phone doesn't have is the AR stuff. It's like, oh, that's real nifty.
Between their like inability to, I don't think they have a UX designer on staff.
No. They have not only do they have UX, they have teams and teams and teams of UX designers that have designed, amazing UI over and over and over and over again in different ways and different products for different things. You know what I mean? And they just never get it together. It's really.
Yeah, so Fluent UI is the new one that they came out with that has this styling that you're talking about, I think. Where they gave us some here's some overall styles that you can use, and then they also have a Blazor version of it that also has components that use the Fluent UI style.
But it's not a I don't think that's a third party thing.
Right, it's first party. It's Microsoft.
And then the other thing that Microsoft does that makes me not trust them is they're always changing names.
Well, I mean that's rebranding. Any company on planet Earth does that. Every single one. There's nothing. That's just the way when you launch a product and it doesn't get a lot of reception, that means reinvent that product and relaunch it again, and you keep doing that until like they get actual market traction. Then you keep it. Often people are frustrated with large companies because they launch something, it's really good, and they don't stick it out. They like dip too soon. This is now politics, right? But I was having a really interesting conversation with a German gentleman who talked about how the taxes are completely structured differently for Germany, allowing companies like Volkswagen and BMW to spend 5 years researching something that American companies could only spend 1 year researching for various reasons.
Yeah, I started using this like beta Microsoft product at work because it was free. So I mean, I only had to ask like, hey, can you like enable this? I didn't have to ask like, hey, can we spend money on this? And my biggest concern is that they're not going to finish it, or they're not going to continue with it at some point. Because it's their answer to like
that's
Notion.
Not something that's not something that's a problem. That's just a problem with the way that the large corporations in America are structured. That's not really a Microsoft thing.
What I found fascinating is like they just implemented integration with Jira and Trello, but they don't have integration with Azure DevOps.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. You hit the nail on the head there. It's like those teams, like they're not like, I guess, planning to do things internally or something. And it's like, wow, that's why don't you talk to the team over there, get them to work it out, and then launch that as a thing that complements other Microsoft things that you're doing as a company, rather than like launching everything as like a siloed thing that doesn't communicate with anything, and specifically works with third-party stuff but nothing from Microsoft. It's like, well, yeah. But I think part of that puzzle is also, you got to remember, and this is part of the story that .NET Core has, and MVC has, and UWP, and now was it Win Union? Where they
UI3.
In UI3, is that what they've moved it to? There you go. Is that like part of that is there's a large corpus of third-party developers that are actually a lot more skilled than the Microsoft employees that build out tooling and things. So very often they'll put out like a framework, and then someone will start making something, so which simply outdoes what Microsoft was doing. This is what happened to UWP, is that the internal Microsoft, like internal corporate structure, wanted to get a hold of desktop UI from the WPF and WinForm space, and then sort of bring that in-house. And they failed because WinForms and WPF and these other things were developing at such a pace with such features and tooling and code writing that it just could out-compete Microsoft's core product. And that's part of the problem. That's what basically when people say, I'm a .NET developer, what they're effectively saying is, we work really hard to make sure Microsoft doesn't control this space, because we seem to be doing a lot better than the actual corporate structure at Microsoft does, at HQ.
I didn't follow. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I have a little baby doe. I was trying to share this picture, but it won't let me. I have a little baby doe and a deer walking through my backyard. Which is I just minutes ago I just whipped out the camera and I took a little snap of the little baby, but it's I must have the wrong setting or something on my camera, because it's the images are 117 megabytes. So image does not accept images larger than 50 megs, and I think Discord doesn't allow them larger than 8 megs or something.
I don't really remember what I was making this demo for you for.
So okay,
we're exploring grids and flex boxes.
We were comparing grids and flexbox. So, and the reason for sometimes needing to do the var height 100% minus
right
or 100 VH.
My main misunderstanding of how I'm currently using Flex was that, let's say I have 10 screens that have some sort of column in them. I don't want to have to, it seems to me that I have to go to each one and set the height, or the column doesn't work because it doesn't know what height to go to. So I for instance, I can't put a Flex Grow in there, right? Because it doesn't know how high to go. So the Flex Grow doesn't do anything. Unless I go to each component and say, your VH20, your VH50, and so on, so on, so on. But really what I wanted to do is just to stretch to the end of the screen.
Right.
Was to the end of the container div.
Automatically. And I think that should happen automatically. So let's consider this main content area. And so you have your div. I want this to be flex 1. And we'll give it a class of flexable, not flexable, flexable. Okay. And we're going to give those a... So you don't want to have to specify take up the full width, but you want them to be display flex, right?
Right. And most of the items are, again, the full width, that goes to the edge of the width container. That's fine. Most of them are width 100%, which is 100% of that container.
And we'll just give it a height of 2 rems, so it gives some height. So, and maybe a background color of RGBA 0.2, so we can tell them apart.
And so Blazor did kindly point out that at least Microsoft is one of those companies that actually does do investments for developers, and that's also part of the puzzle where they always get it wrong, is because they're also one of the only companies that does this. Like, you go to Google, and Google will like have this, this is amazing, and then on Tuesday they just cancel the whole thing and delete the whole page and pretend it never happened. It's like, oh, they canceled that, did they? Oh, too bad.
Yeah,
well, I mean, they kind of did that with the MRTK.
They get rid of
Loop. I don't know that they did. I don't think they did, to be honest. I think there was a lot of hyperbole. I think people said stuff, but I think you'll find they're still they're gonna that story is gonna continue. It might not be MRTK. It might be something else. They might be again doing a reproduct launch in a different namespace or a different way of doing the same thing. But I don't think they're actually like dropping it like a bomb. At least I hope, because that's all you can do. Because you got to remember, these companies do have to pay. They do have to keep the lights on at the end of the day. So like, if they're spending, and Microsoft probably is spending like literally billions of dollars on stuff that doesn't make them a dime every year. I don't know. Maybe that's exaggeration. I'm gonna say millions, tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions. Just because that builds out products that then can be used in technology and helps push the lever forward.
Probably a few billion.
Only a few bills. Bills. Little quiet billion.
Let's see if I can pull up their financials.
Or
their expenses.
So is this kind of something that you're talking about, DFlux? So right now I've changed the flex direction to column.
Okay.
And it's not stretching the entire height. I was expecting it to. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so was I. That's exactly that.
No,
that's what I did. I was like, it should.
Wait. That's... Are you using... Are you nesting or CSS?
Yeah. I see. Wait, no, that's still not what I'm looking for.
Wait, so are you talking about the blue box?
No, I'm talking about this shaded box here.
Oh.
So if I had display block, then it would just be a 2 rem by 2 rem block. It should be a 2 rem by 2 rem block. Maybe it's just not picking up my style changes anymore. I've had too many. We'll save it.
And
save
that's flexible. That's living within main content. Okay.
Oh. I put it in main nav. I put these rules in main nav. Wait, no, I didn't.
Wait, no, you didn't. You did it right.
So I'm using display block here, which, oh, duh, block takes up 100% of the width. Sorry, display inline. Let's do inline block. Like, there we go. Okay, so if I use inline block, then you can see that it just takes up the amount of space that I tell it to. If I put another element, it would show up next to it. Flex works similar to block, that it takes up the entire width. But then if I say flex direction column, what we're expecting to happen is for it to take up the entire height.
Align items strat?
And you'll notice if you make it volume height, it will do it, and it will actually stuff inside it will space it correctly and everything.
Right. So
but it won't
100%.
No, not percent. Well, percent doesn't work for me. That's part of my question.
Okay.
Percent should work.
Percent will only work if you do have a container that has a specific height. My container here is this main content area, which takes up the entire.
And that's also what I'm missing. Then I'm not doing, and that's probably why percent isn't working for me there.
Yeah, and
that might actually be my solution. Right, because so once you so I'm expecting like for instance, I'll have 4 items in my menu, right, and I want to space them evenly, say, so I'd have like 4 of those gray things, and I want to say display them like I want to say put one, let's get 4. Do this the space evenly thing.
space evenly going down the page.
Yes. Yeah.
I think a line's vertical, and it would be like a line space. Well, you could do space between, or
Right.
let's see what he comes up with.
The wording I always is justify content is how I. Again, I'll link the doc I use because I don't know how that plays over, but I have like what I'm essentially using there is like a space around. Or
one's
center,
used for
depending.
rows, one's used for containers, and I don't remember.
Well, no. So that's the thing. It's not rows and containers.
Or
remember
rows.
that it is
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
your basis that it's going off of. And I think maybe the thing that I can refer you to for Flex specifically is the complete CSS guide for Flex.
Ooh.
Oh, come on. It's in my favorites.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a thing. So I think so. You've highlighted two things that I'm not doing that I probably need to be doing. First, the full container.
Sorry, go ahead.
Two things. The first is like I don't think I actually name anywhere. Like I don't make it like a CSS class that has like 100% full width. 100 volume height, 100 volume width. Because then I have that, right? And then I put the flex column inside that div. And then from there, I can then put 3 items in there and say expand to this container, because now I have a definitive container. Rather, what I think is happening right now is that I don't actually have that first step. And so each separate step, I then have to define the container.
Right.
That's my problem, I think.
Okay. Definitely possible. Real quick, just on the flex direction on using justify content and align content. So if you are normal, then justify content will be horizontal alignment for each element.
Right.
And then if you are flex column, justify content is vertically.
Yes.
Wait, I thought that was a. So what's a line then? I thought a line was up and down.
In
and then
flex direction row,
okay.
A line is up and down. In flex direction column, a line is left and right. So it has to do with aligning to your main axis.
Wait.
That CSS tricks thing you just linked, I linked that above. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, the Flexbox one, or this thing that I'm looking at here.
Right, yeah.
So typically in row form, it looks like this. If you were in flex column, just turn all of these pictures vertical. And so you would see that these are squishing up to the top for flex start when you are in flex column, when you're doing justify content. It's so, it takes a little bit of thinking.
Right.
So it would look like this. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't. It would just be vertically. Yeah, it wouldn't look like this. Here, I'll show. I will show. Showing is easier. Okay, so Flexable has a whole bunch of inner stuff. Bless you.
Oh, bless you.
Flexable has inner stuff. Inner stuff will have a width of, I don't know, 1 room, a height of 1 room. And they will have a background color of RGB.
I'll be back in just 1 second. I have my phone vibrating. Hang it up real quick. Check who it is. 1 second.
I'm just picking random numbers. What does that look like? Pretty. Magic Auto. Height, width, rem, and then justify content space.
Now do the same thing, but only using grid.
Wait, we aren't there yet. NE, slow down. Actually, why isn't this one working? What did I do wrong? Oh, first of all, I'm naming these wrong. Although there is no easy way for me to column select and change them. I'll still do it. So class names usually use whatever this is called, snake case. Oh, did we? Because we are in flex direction column. That's why. Not helpful. All right, and then we'll fix this to inner dash stuff. So this should space them evenly across, with space in between, but not in front of or behind the group of stuff. Unless we did space. Well, what did he say he was using? Justify content space around. Yeah, and so that centers them, or not centers them, but centers the entire group with evenly spacing all the way around. Blah, 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 blah. And then if we have a second grouping, let's say our flexable column, then the only thing that we're going to change in flexable column is flex direction column. So you'll see them stack on top of each other, but we need some extra height on the flexable so that we can see them split apart a little bit. So we'll give it a height of 40 characters. I'm just mixing units. Okay, so now you can see that they are evenly splitting vertically. Even though it's still just justify content, they're splitting evenly vertically. And then the same thing with, we can do 2 more, right? We'll do 2 more.
I is back.
Welcome back. Use a line or something, I don't know. Line. Okay, so if it is also a line,
But put everything in the center.
and we'll justify content initial. So we undo it, or unset, I guess. Unset would be the same thing. We undo that so that we only use align items center. That's what you want. And you'll see that here it does it vertically center, and then here it does it horizontally center when you're doing the column. Because you're just taking this thing and you're rotating it. That's it.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. Perfect. So, so you have. Ooh. So you had like one that had like flex grow. Was that what it was doing, or
nothing?
You said one that was
add anything. This is all by default. So I did have to specify a height in order for the columns to grow, but horizontally it will always stretch to take up the entire width of the container.
Okay.
Just do.
Does justify have a stretch as well? Do align and justify share the same?
Share the same.
Not property. After the property, I think aligns the property.
Attribute?
So, yeah.
Or values.
Yeah. So like, do they both have stretch essentially?
Oh, no. Or wait, yes, they both have stretch. They don't both have the same properties in general, the same values that are allowed for this. So like this will have, wait, yes they do. Flex start, center, flex end, stretch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. Never mind. Flex start, flex end, center, stretch, baseline. I forgot baseline. Oh yeah. Wait, what? Flex start, flex end, center, space between, space around, space evenly. So yeah, they have different allowed properties.
I see stretch on MDN, but I might play around with it this weekend. All right, do the same thing. No flex, all grid.
Yeah. Super easy. That one would be extremely easy. Row, align, and
Took us off with the magic auto.
yeah, I like that. The thing that I really, really like about grid is even if you're just going to use it for one element, centering things is so easy. So duper super easy. Oh, okay. There. Now everything is specified. Although, why doesn't this look like it's vertically centered? Oh, because I put stretch. I have to make this accurate, okay? I don't want to misrepresent what this thing is supposed to do. The really cool thing on top about grid is scooch hash bean or hash on top. It's going to be grid area C mx z index 1 background color. Anyone have a good background color? Green. Good pick, guys. Okay. So the thing about grid is, let's say we have a div, and that div has a button. Clicker, clickable, click me, button. And I want this button centered in the middle here. Then easiest way to do that is display grid place items center. Boom. Done. Otherwise, if I didn't do this, I would have had to have done something like the parent container, which is what? What's my parent container? You. Oh, since you're position fixed, then it's also position relative. I would have had to have done something like, oh, button. Position relative. Position.
Is that public BTW? Because I wanted to.
Yeah. This thing? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. All right. So button position absolute, top 50% of the container, left 50% of the container. But now it's down and over. Down and over. So center would be at the top left corner of this thing. So then you have to adjust, transform, translate, minus 50%, minus 50%. And this 50% here is of the element itself. So now I moved it over half of its own width, up half of its own height. So lots more code than just using display grid, place item center. Fun times, right? I'm still hesitating to do the same this thing with display grid, because it really is just, these are a whole bunch of rows. So display grid around the whole thing, and then we tell this one that it's going to have it's going to be a grid with 5, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, or 5 columns, and the columns are align item center, unless I give it a different class, in which case these would each be rows. Why not just justify content center, align item center? Because we would need flex. So we either use display flex or display grid. So gosh, yeah, so I don't really see the rows changing, by using grid without actually splitting them into separate rows. So it would be a more flat thing. I wouldn't have a container called mflex1. This main content container would be a display grid with 5 columns. This would not be a container. And it would just be, how many do I have? 20? 20 divs that are inner stuff. And then I would tell them how to be placed. Yeah, that doesn't sound very fun. So
Cool, but no, I'm gonna try this because this is something that I've been trying to get my head around for a while.
Oh, okay.
So I will. I'm gonna give this a whirl, and maybe next week we'll re-review, and I'll see if I've managed to make it work for me. Because I think that column thing just bugs the hell out of me, and time and time again I've like worked out a CSS hacky solution, but I'm now actually understanding what's actually going on in the CSS with the parent and the child. So that's really useful. So I appreciate that.
Quite welcome. So, Sir Blacksoul, this is why. This has absolutely no meaning without either display flex or display grid. So in either case, it's going to work just fine, but the easier way to do these two is by using display grid, place, items, center. So it's one less line than display flex, justify content, align items. But it's also a bunch of steps easier than using position relative, position absolute. Yeah. But that's what I was trying to show, by the way, was the difference between using display grid versus the traditional way of centering an item in a container. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, agreed. So more structure means the page has to load your DOM more and parse your DOM more. So if you just have a version of this where all of your divs are at the same level and use display grid to place them on your page, it's probably better. Less div soup. And then you use your actual semantic HTML so that screen readers have a good time with it. Speaking of, one more shout out for screen reader accessibility tools. Look them up, they're really cool. They make it really, really easy for you to know how screen reader is going to see your app. And you can start using ARIA tags. So about using stuff like Edge Reader, or I don't know what Edge Reader is, but stuff like built-in browser tools like not built-in.
If you have
like Wave.
I love Edge Reader for one. I want to point that out. I love Edge Reader.
Cool.
If you ever
tell
go
me
to,
about it after I say this thing real quick.
Sure. So
Wave doesn't work in a WPF app that uses a Blazor web view control. So I have to come up with other strategies for seeing what my app will do to screen readers. Okay, so tell me about
so Wave doesn't work with what? Sorry.
So like narrator, when I have narrator turned on.
Narrator.
Yeah, narrator, screen readers. So my desktop app is a WPF app with a Blazor web view control. That's our main UI. Mm-hmm. I need to make sure that screen readers can read that thing just fine. Okay.
Gotcha.
By LiveCoding.
But you know, Edge Reader is a really nifty thing. What it does is it converts a page to just like a reading view. So it takes away all the everything other than so it's typically used in like a news web page. So you go to the New York Times and you want to read a news article, but you don't want to read all the other stuff. And in particular, you want that news article to fill the entire screen. So like imagine like an iPad or something. So you go to replace the HTTPS with, or just before the HTTPS, you do reader semicolon and it will colon, and it will go ahead and do that for you. What's really cool about Edge Reader is a lot of the paywall news websites, they don't factor in that feature. So you can go to a paywall news article, switch on the reader, and all of a sudden you have access to the whole article. It's very useful for that.
Yeah. So that is very different than what I'm talking about for accessibility, because accessibility is all about giving a users with various handicaps or disabilities the same experience or a similar experience to people that have full sight, full abilities to navigate around your app. So what this one specifically does here is it tells you when a user, so when you have screen reader turned on, and I think you guys are going to hear this, I don't remember if I turn that down. When you have screen reader turned on, then as you navigate through your page, so you're holding the caps lock and arrow keys to navigate around, it knows what to say when you're on each element. But not only that, when you press caps lock F5 for, again, this is narrator specifically, you get this landmarks list of places you can jump to in the document that you're looking at. And then with the F6, this is why it's important to use H1 through H6, is you get headers. And like this thing here should be a header in order to be accessible. So this is a H1 that says a complete guide to Flexbox at level 1. But it's not. So that's not very accessible, is it? And then this would be like some kind of nav role that tells you how to get around the app, the page, the document, just by clicking on those. And these are expandables that have an ARIA expanded. They probably don't. And then a whole bunch of things that just, yeah. So anyway, that's what this thing shows you, is an overview of what your app looks like to screen readers. It's built into the dev tools. You just have to turn it on by going to accessibility here, and then checking this box, and then restarting dev tools. And you toggle back and forth between your DOM and accessibility. And the reason that I'm pointing it out is because I used to think it's really, really hard to make accessibility stuff, and it still can be, because you don't want to be too simple with it. I'm frozen. Don't freeze me. You don't want to be too simple with it, but you also don't want to change up specific things. Like you don't want to do a H3, which is a level 3 header, but you don't want to style it to look like a level, or you don't want to use the H tags just to change the font size. If it really is a level 2 header, use a H2 and then style that to look like bigger.
Right. Yeah,
Use
that's a
order,
big thing, because
don't skip.
that's almost like a coming from Microsoft Word. That's almost like a given, like, you know.
Yeah. And you can definitely use Wave in your CI/CD. I didn't know that you could use Wave in CI/CD. I will definitely look into that. Thank you, Sir Blacksoul. But anyway,
I'm still confused about what Wave is. Oh,
Wave is just a scoring tool for your site.
Gotcha.
Self-auditing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a browser
goes
extension
room or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does a decent job. It doesn't catch everything. For my having to do the self not VPAD, is it? Yeah, the voluntary accessibility homework.
Mhm.
And then you mentioned what, section 508 earlier this week? Yeah. Working with education is fun because they're technically the government.
Yep. So any government agency has to do 508. Any education system has to use 508.
But I will say 508, like if you meet whatever the general level is,
Mm-hmm.
if you meet like AA, like 508, I think requires less than like the general standard these days. Forgetting the specific, it might start with a 4.
In England, we were one of the first countries to pass a law way before the US. This was like way before the 2000s, regarding accessibility for every website. And when they passed the law, they did it for everything. Like they said, every single company in England that has a website anywhere has to meet these rules. And then they had to walk the law back because not even the government was following it. So they're like, "Oh, this is actually really onerous," and can we ignore it?
In order for you to publish an app through the Microsoft Store, it must meet certain accessibility requirements, and that's where we're at.
Nice. I mean, really, that's good, right? Because that in of itself does. Well, I know you got to end your stream, so I'll let you go. But that's awesome.
Yeah. So here is Wave, just so you can see it once. turn it on for this site. I think, unless you're frozen again. Okay, so there it goes. So it gives you this sidebar. It says this site has 88 errors, and here are the errors. And here are some suggestions on how to fix those things. Info. Yeah, here's some suggestions on how to fix those things. And so it's really, really, really cool for, like Mojo said, getting a good chunk of your accessibility stuff out of the way. Like, how is your contrast? How are your contrast levels? How are your image tags, alt text? Do you have some for everything? Do you have icons that are representing links with no label associated with them, so that a screen reader wouldn't just read icon?
We can
image.
You can answer this on your time in the Discord, but I am curious about like partial renders, because those throw errors on with this tool. I have like some partial render views.
Okay.
And it throws an error, but I'm not sure how it gets read from like a screen reader's perspective. So I'm just interested in.
Well, yeah. So that one again, just try this tool.
Okay.
Change it to this turn on the accessibility mode, change it to the accessibility view, and this is what your screen reader will do. The other easy thing to do is Windows Control, if you're on a Windows OS, Windows Control Enter to turn on your narrator, and then use caps lock as your narrator key by default with arrow keys to navigate left and right. And then you'll quickly find out down is scan mode. You can turn it on and off. And then when caps lock F5, caps lock F6, and caps lock F7 are what most people with screen readers use when they first go to a website to find out what all is in this website. Here's my overview, but I don't have it turned on. So yeah, caps lock F5, what's in this website? Here's the overview. Caps lock F6 is what headers, so I can jump to a header or to an area directly by header. And then F7 is what links are on this page. And then this is just telling you, here are all the things that the screen reader will stop on and what it will say.
Okay.
And like this image down here, it's probably intended that nobody sees it. Or maybe it's for screen readers only, who knows?
Okay. Yeah, I'll play around with it, because like we have like some modals that pop up that they're like partial render.
Yeah. And there is a specific way to do modals anyway.
Well, I just hope I hope we have that availability within our current application, I guess.
Take a look at this. I mean, if it is HTML, you will absolutely have this availability. If you're using a modern browser like Chrome or Firefox or Edge, then you will have this in your dev tools.
Okay. But sorry, just like the ability to handle the modal is within the CSS and not like my old jQuery package or something.
Oh yeah, and that's cool. And that's fine. The main thing is, if the modal is not showing, then make sure you use your ARIA.
Okay.
ARIA. I don't know what it is. ARIA expanded, I think, for modals even. Yeah. And then you either set this using JavaScript, or for me, it's C# code because I'm using Blazor, or whether it's expanded or not.
Let us know when you write the accessibility textbook.
We had someone come by that has already talked about this a lot. I can't remember who they were, but I'm sure if I looked it up, I would know. But yeah, I do need to end the stream so I can get back to work.
All right, later, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out, though. Do you have any final words? We'll start with DFlux.
I have one final word, which is I'm really trying hard to organize my life around at least doing one stream a week. So we'll see how that's going. I did a stream yesterday. I may be doing a stream at some point this weekend. Maybe. If not, it will be probably Tuesday, Wednesday next week. But we'll see. So no promises. But if you like what One is doing and you want like a really bad version of it, I do something similar with like Blazor and
stuff.
Well, I was reviewing the the Azure security stuff, which was kind of mind-numbing. Even for me, that's partly why I had to stream it, because I was just like, I'm not going to be able to do this unless someone watches me. So, I did that way. But yes, so come check me out.
Cool. Awesome. And Mojo?
Yeah, just shout out to DFlux because he keeps doing it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the Voice channel for Community Day.
No problem.
Cool. I'm hanging up.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and thank everyone else for being here. Thank you all for being amazing people. I will set up a raid. I am saying a lot suddenly because now I feel like I'm in a rush because I'm trying to get the stuff. But yeah, Mojo just printed out our Discord page, which is where you can hang out with us. You can ask questions. You can answer questions if there are questions that you have answers to or opinions about. I'm going to go to this page while I say this stuff. I also post all of my videos to YouTube no sooner than 24 hours after I end the stream because, you know, Twitch affiliate has to be Twitch exclusive for 24 hours. This is Twitch exclusive. And finally, I will be back again on Monday, so feel free to join us. There are absolutely no requirements to, but I am going to set up a raid for someone that came by earlier, Solo Solipsist, who is currently working in mixed reality technologies. Hopefully I spelled his name correctly. Solo Solipsist. I did? Okay. Ask him about where he came up with Solo Solipsist, the name of his company, and he will tell you a pretty cool story about it. But right now he has a HoloLens on his head and he is working in the MRTK. I bet you he's playing around with this WebView control that we talked about earlier, the one from last Friday's stream that DFlux and I went through a little bit. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. Hope to see you again someday, and see you over on Solo Stream if you're heading there. I will also be lurking on Bardaki's and Tim's, and when Irish John starts, I'll be lurking on his stream too. Okay. Ciao. I was lurking too. Hello, Scott. Thank you so much for lurking. You are much appreciated. You're welcome back, Sol. Ciao for now.